This podcast is brought to you by Kiwi Design. Kiwi is the leader in Oculus Quest and VR accessories. And now, you can deck out your device while supporting the podcast.
The Oculus Quest 2 is a great headset, but do you ever find things could be a bit more comfortable, maybe a little safer? Well, we have the solution for you. With lens protectors, controller grips, face covers, head straps, link cables, headset stands, and so much more.
And let's be real, we've all whacked our controller. You don't want to be that guy messaging Oculus support for your own mistake or waiting weeks for an out-of-stock controller. Visit the link in our show notes now to prepare yourself today.
And you don't need to sacrifice comfort for cost either. Kiwi is constantly running promotions of 20, 25, and even 30% off.
Just visit the link in our show notes and use the promo code on their website to take full advantage of your savings. And be sure to follow the link in our show notes so we get credit and you help support the podcast. And remember, Kiwi has you covered for all your VR needs. This podcast is brought to you today by Zencastr, the company we choose to use for our interviews.
I remember that first interview we had and the stress that we went through trying to find a platform that we were going to host this on.
That's where Zencastr came in. With HD video recording and studio sound quality, we were able to connect seamlessly with guests all over the world.
I love the fact that it's as easy as sending our guests a link, they click on it, and they're connected.
With automatic post-production, secured cloud backup, and automated transcripts, Zencastr is the perfect solution for any remote podcast. If you want to make remote podcasting easy,
make sure you go to zencastr.com/pricing and enter the promo code Ruff Talk VR, and you'll save 30% off your first 3 months.
That's zencastr.com/pricing, promo code Ruff Talk VR. It's your time to share your story. Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Ruff Talk VR. We're joined today with a real fun one today.
I'm excited.
Oh yeah,
I'm excited.
The creator of one of the most popular games on the Oculus Quest store, Walkabout Mini Golf. We're joined with Lucas Martell today. So Lucas, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your game Walkabout Mini Golf? In case somehow our listeners haven't played it,
Sure thing. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Like I said, my name is Lucas Martell. I'm the creator. I'll give you the super quick my backstory because it's long and winding. I was a music major in school and then kind of found myself getting more and more into the film side of things. So I started teaching myself animation, and I ended up doing a short film called Pigeon Impossible that then became the basis for Spies in Disguise. The one Will Smith turns into a pigeon. It was Will Smith, Tom Holland, Rashida Jones. It was the last film that Blue Sky did. So I've been traditionally more on the film side of things. And even my studio, Mighty Coconut, started off more as a animation and VFX. We were doing some of our own projects, but also some work for hire stuff. And over the years, I kind of found myself just dabbling with games. There's actually a couple of games that we released for mobile, 57 North and Laser Mazer. Which one, 57 North story-based, Laser Mazer, very like AR puzzle-solving game. You kind of have to see the trailer to really wrap your head around it. I took sort of like the tech that we had built into Laser Mazer and was starting to work on this mini golf thing because it was using the exact same idea of like you've got a phone and you can basically putt by doing this. So Walkabout Mini Golf, that was sort of the first incarnation of it. It actually started as a phone game. And then when the Oculus Quest 1 came out, it was like, wait a second, we're already running mobile. We're already doing like 90% of the stuff. So I did a quick port and got it up and running on the Quest, well enough that I was able to show it to Oculus at one of the Indiecade conventions. And they were like, yeah, at the time, it was just the Quest 1. There weren't a whole lot of games for it. It's a very difficult platform to develop for, especially at that time. Got them on board. And basically then they were like, yeah, once you finish it, let us know and we'll put it up. So I guess I worked on it. I really sort of doubled down during the COVID lockdown. I just needed something to keep my hands busy. So I started kind of toiling away at that. And then we ended up launching Walkabout Mini Golf basically just like 2 weeks before the Quest 2 came out. So very just lucky timing, just right place, right time, and happened to have something that, it did take about a year and a half to get to that point. But just very, very lucky in sort of how that came out. So for folks who haven't played it, it's kind of what it says on the tin. It's Walkabout Mini Golf. It's a mini golf game. We try to really push things though in terms of the physics are very, very accurate. The environments you're going through are really, really lush. I mean, it's all low poly, but still with a very artful eye. And we're kind of trying to treat that experience of being on a mini golf course is not just about the mini golf. It's sort of like walking through these cool locations and sort of this theme park atmosphere to everything. So it works single player, but it really, really shines with multiplayer. There's a lot of folks who have been using that as a way to meet up with people. Some businesses have been using it. A lot of people playing with their parents. And yeah, it's just very, very sort of user friendly, but it's a great sort of just activity to kind of do with other people. So yeah, we've been developing that. Our team has grown now. We're about 16 people. Started off pretty much solo. We're now up to 16, and we're putting out more courses, more features, and just we're very, very actively developing and evolving the game.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, speaking of new courses,
right? You just had the new one, Sweetopia, drop, which we were playing last night. We're having a blast with it. It was one of the few times I've beaten.
Only one
Stratus.
Complaint though.
Yeah, one complaint on it. It
made me so hungry.
Yeah.
I wanted candy. I'm not gonna lie. We were like, oh, because we pay attention to the background and the scenery, and it's, I'm like, look at that river of chocolate, dude. I'm legit getting. I'm actually getting.
I wish I had some munchies while I was playing, but you can definitely see some background and animation shining in the environments of this game, which is big because you play mini golf. You think about what makes mini golf great. Playing golf is probably like 20% of it. It's the environments, the funkiness, the
fun,
the everything, the social aspect. Like you said, that's where the game shines. Laughing. So, what was it like to transition from animation to something that you didn't go to school for, VR game development?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go to school for any of this. Like I said, I was a music major, so this has all been sort of like picking up as I've just learning by doing, basically. I will say it has been a surprising transition, especially because I've had many, many years of learning how to run an animation team. Game development is so different, and a lot of our team does come from animation, which is great because I do feel like we go about things in a different way, and just we kind of tend to think about things more like an animated thing in terms of our pipeline and just sort of how we're building stuff. I think it gives the game some of its unique flavor, and it just feels a little different. At the same time, it also means that we're kind of having to, in many ways, we're still sort of relearning like how games are made. Luckily, that's a great place to be with VR because everything is kind of so new still, and everything is still getting figured out. So I feel like it's actually kind of a benefit that we have a different background that's not in games. But I will say personally, for me, it's been a bit of a journey just learning to manage a team doing gaming and just sort of like all the side of things. Like we've never had to have QA. We've never had to have ongoing support. We've never had to have release management and all of the publishing side of things because we're self-publishing and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been a bit of a trial by fire, but I feel like we're getting there.
So no, I think you guys are killing it, to be honest with you. From a consumer aspect, I mean, we loved Walkabout Mini Golf.
Yeah,
absolutely loved it. Yeah. And the multiplayer is definitely. We played with some of the fans on our Reddit subreddit. Yeah. Absolutely freaking amazing. The name actually, Mighty Coconut too, by the way, we think that's freaking fantastic.
Oh yeah, so the name actually came because there was another short film that I did called The Ocean Maker, and we made it by essentially kind of bribing a team of really, really awesome professional animators by moving production down to this little island off the coast of Belize. So there was basically 8 of us down there for about 7 weeks, and we pretty much made the whole short film on this island. And then when we started the company, kind of to keep the band together in a way, we wanted something that harkened back to that. So that's where the name came from. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. Actually, just jumping back to one little thing you said though, about the multiplayer aspect, I feel like if for folks who haven't played the game, we kind of have it's kind of unique. Our room code system, that's actually kind of what I was talking about, where I feel like to hook up with people, you don't have to be friends, you don't have to be anything, you just have to sort of like type in the same room name and it'll just hook you up together. That's one of those things that I feel like in a way we kind of benefited from not having previous game experience and sort of like doing a more sophisticated lobby and all of that. It's sort of like it's very, very simple, but in VR I feel like it actually works really, really well. A lot of that was just sort of blind luck that we were kind of reinventing the wheel as opposed to going with, things that a lot of other folks had really sort of figured out. So again, up and downs to that, but it does kind of create some new ways of doing things.
No, sometimes going at things with an outside perspective that's not exactly the black and white routine way to do it is sometimes yields, some of the best results. So having had a successful animation, what I would say successful, I have Will Smith do anything, I'd call that successful.
Yeah, call it a day.
So having successful animation, and now honestly, you see recommendations about Quest games. You always see Walkabout Mini Golf. Yep. So I would argue you've had a pretty successful VR game as well. Yeah. Having done both now, which is more fulfilling to you, producing a visual animation or a VR game?
I'll be honest, I'm having way more fun doing this in the VR. Yes, largely. Yeah, so I still have a couple of film and series projects that are out there that are, with different producers and stuff that I hope still get made, but I have to say there's something about where VR is at, especially right now, where that you look at the companies who are really doing the coolest stuff. Most of them are small, indie, at least in the traditional sense. We're 100% indie. And I have spent a pretty significant amount of my career trying to get things made. And then once you do the scale of sort of like, so I didn't actually direct the feature Spies in Disguise. I was more involved upfront in the development, but still just the amount of people that are involved and the amount of money that's involved in those things. It's from the outside, it sounds awesome. And it was a really, really awesome experience, but it's also a very you don't get to really get your hands dirty and do things. Everything just takes so long and it's such a massive, massive machine. And I think it's the same thing that you run into with like a AAA game where you're going to be in production on that for 4 or 5 years, likely. It's just that right now we've hit this really sweet spot that I personally love. It's like, let's just do it. And now we're getting to the point where we're doing more and more courses and we just kind of get to let our creativity fly. And frankly, it's almost kind of more like TV production where we're getting to the point where we're hoping to have about 1 course a month coming out. And that means that everybody on the team is about on each course for about a month. So just when you start running out of gas, when you start getting a little tired of it, okay, on to the next one. And it could be something totally different, just like Sweetopia was. It was a complete tonal, visual, like so many things we were able to just shift and do a complete 180 from a lot of our other stuff. So that's, I think, why this particular game is so fulfilling to be working on.
Oh, that's something we talk about a lot, that most of our favorite games that, Stratus and I played, we go and talk to developers and it's teams of 3, 5, 7, even 16 is like a bigger number.
Yeah, I was like, wow,
that we've heard.
That's only just now. In fact, you haven't even seen any of the courses that the full team has touched. So because so many of that has been ramping up over the last 6 months, basically.
Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. So if you're playing the first course, that doesn't have 16 people working on it. You're playing a new course, it does. So the difference is really going to shine. Okay, yeah, that's actually that's real exciting.
And I feel like you are really seeing that in the newer, like the DLCs, because more of the team has been in place for that. So right about Coyote Valley was the time when we added a couple of folks to the team that really were able to take some stuff off my plate and elevate it and do things a lot better than I could do mostly by myself. I did have a little bit of help on the first, but generally, if you're looking at the base game, that's mostly stuff that I was doing solo or with some help. So,
and we often think that maybe that small team number actually produces a better product because exactly what you said, there's not as much bureaucracy. And it seems like just talking to developers and stuff, it seems like a much happier work environment. So people come in motivated, they work hard, they're glad to be part of something new. And let's be real, like you said, VR is so new. It's exciting being part of, the new wave of things coming. But going back to Sweetopia real quick, because this one's funky. This one's so cool. The for anybody who hasn't played it, it's like imagine a Willy Wonka mini golf. That's the only way I can think of it. The whole place is just candy everywhere.
The whole place looks edible.
Because of that, I want to eat.
Even the sky looks edible.
Yeah, I want to eat sour gummy bears while I'm playing. But what made you go the route of pretty much candy environment? Like, how did this inspire you? Like, how did this come to your mind?
So actually, Sweetopia was the first course that totally came from the rest of the team. So Henning Kachi is now our lead sort of course designer. In fact, I realized that I said the base game. Henning also designed Tethys Station and Bogey's Bonanza. So he did have a couple that were the base game, but he has been doing the other couple. All of the Lost Cities that you've seen so far were designed by him, and we had done a kind of a company creative retreat as we were trying to figure out, okay, what are the next batches of courses that we're gonna be working on. And he had this idea for he really wanted to do Sweetopia, and so he pretty much hatched this one entirely on his own, figured it out, and it kind of went through the rest of the team basically. And yeah, it's actually really, really awesome to see that sort of like that you do kind of start to have different folks who can kind of put their different flavors on stuff. And I think that I'd always kind of wanted to do something like this, but I've always been more just like my personal, like the type of stuff that I tend to do tends to be a bit more natural. And so it's been so nice to sort of like let the whole team just sort of go, and they really sort of took it and ran with it. And just, I feel like we really sort of like, yeah, we pulled the brakes off and let them just go nuts. And I think that's something that we want to be doing more. Not every course, but yeah, something else that we've also started talking about a little bit is that now that we have more courses and that we're doing them at a cadence that we feel like we could take a few more risks, that we don't have to, like, if Sweetopia is not going to be, some people aren't going to care for it as much. However, stick around, the next one you probably will. And I feel like we're getting into this point where, like, if 10% of the audience says that, oh, that was my favorite course, that scratched the itch that I had, that I really, really wanted to see and play, then that's really what you want, because you don't have to please everyone all the time, but we want to do a wider variety of tones and styles and gameplay that yeah, will just sort of keep everybody happy and keep growing things even quite a ways beyond what you've seen.
I think the fact that it's going to continue to grow to that scale is amazing. I mean, we know people that follow us that are first to admit anytime they think anything's going to happen with Walkabout, they're like, take my money, please. They just want more content. And I will say the price of the DLCs is like
$3. Come on,
not even funny affordable.
That's a bargain.
So nobody can ever say like, hey, you know,
I'm spending, $10 a
could have
month.
just bought a new game. It's like, no, it's legit. Like, I thought it was actually, I thought the DLC content was going to be more expensive, to be honest with you. So hats off to you guys for being able to do that.
And you get two courses for every new course, because you have the easy and the hard mode.
Get the hard.
And again, they're easy and hard for a reason. There's a difference.
Yeah, and they're totally different. They have a different vibe, especially this one. The Valentine's night mode was super fun. The music on that one was a last minute add. A lot of people have commented because the music goes, it grooves way harder than we have on any previous course. And yeah, we were playing around and it had the original theme the first time, and then we realized, oh, it just doesn't quite fit now that the lighting has gotten so moody and so almost neon Studio 54. So yeah, we went in a different direction, and everyone has been loving that. But yeah, with what you were saying though, as far as the DLC, we really do want it to be, we want to be able to keep doing these, and so we kind of need to charge a little bit just to sort of, we can't just keep adding stuff to the base game forever and ever. So we're really trying to strike that balance of like what allows us to like keep the lights on, keep everybody fed, but we also want as many people as possible to be playing these courses and and experiencing it. So like we even have the guest pass thing, so if you don't own it but someone else does, you can at least get on and play it and experience. So yeah, we're really happy with where that is, and it feels like we struck a good balance there with making it affordable but still being able to keep the lights on.
Yeah, no, come on.
Anything under $10
is
pretty much affordable.
I won't lie. Pop One drops a skin and I'll go spend $5 on coins to buy a skin. That's a skin. Think of how much content you get and replayability you get out of a course. You go play one round of mini golf, it's going to cost you more than $3. It's $3. It's such an amount that people can't bitch about. But I can see for you guys as a development company, it's something. So enough people spend $3. enough to keep the lights on. It's a fair
Exactly.
balance for both parties. For me, if you like the game, it's one of those games you play with a bunch of people. Yeah, it's
just getting more content for literally
and I love
pennies, dude.
I love the guest pass feature because it can be like, I can say, hey, let me pick up the DLC. Let's both try it. If you like it, then you go buy it. But, we won't both forced to buy it just to even try it.
You can each buy one.
Yeah.
No, it's a great feature.
So how much do you actually love mini golf outside of VR, that mini golf was the route that was chosen?
I actually, when I was a kid, mini golf was one of my favorite things, and especially like the really sort of like the tourist trappy, you go to like, I haven't actually been to Myrtle Beach, but that's like the mini golf mecca of the world, basically, where just everything is just overdone and sort of like you're playing up these giant volcanoes, and just it really, really goes gonzo with the design. That was always sort of like one of my favorite things. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of mini golf to begin with. It's also just it's a very fun design because it's such a simple idea. But once you introduce the physics aspect to it, you really have so many different things that you can do. And it feels like every once in a while we catch ourselves like, oh, that's kind of like this hole that we had done on a previous one. But in general, sort of like I can't even think of how many, 11 times 2 times 8, 11 times 36. It's something like we're probably like over 400 holes now. And I feel like we still have so many ideas, and especially some of the new mechanics that we're going to start gradually introducing to new and different courses that are kind of built around that. So it's just a really, really fun game that feels like it's a fun thing to design for, because it lets you build these cool environments, but the environments are also kind of separate from the game in a way that you could do some fun stuff with the environment that doesn't as immediately affect gameplay. Like if you were doing a first person shooter or something, everything that you design has an effect on how people play the game. Whereas we're able to be a bit more free and loose. And yeah, the macarons who are out in the in the distance, those aren't going to impact gameplay. That's just for visual aesthetics. So
no, and the physics make a huge difference, because just like real golf, you'll never make the same shot twice. So you can get
very
pretty funky with
replayable.
you can get ridiculous with your trick shots. Which anybody who doesn't follow Walkabout Mini Golf on social media, go give them a good follow. You guys are great at sharing some community trick shots that go on.
Mm-hmm.
So a little left field question, but have you guys ever thought about adding the I hate to call them meta avatars, the Oculus avatars? Have you ever thought about adding those to your game?
Yeah, in fact, let me just do one thing. I'm in the squeaky chair. I just realized. I heard as I was moving around, how noisy it was. So let me just move this first while I answer that question. So
I think I have that same chair actually, and it makes the same squeak.
Yeah, it's annoying. So we looked pretty closely at the meta avatars. At the time, the biggest thing that kind of kept us from using them was the cross-platform aspect, because we are on so many different platforms. Basically, we realized that we are going to have our own avatar system anyways, because there are some platforms that we're coming to that they will never support. So like, not to get too deep into it, but so like I mentioned the AR version. So we've got that version. It works, and you can cross play with VR. So if you can have someone in VR and a couple people on their phones all playing around together. However, just the way that those are constructed, it's using some stuff that wouldn't be allowed to run, just because it's using dynamic code and stuff in a very clever way. But for security reasons, Apple doesn't allow it. So we knew that we were going to have to build our own avatar system anyways, because without like completely rewriting how those are working. I mean, that's the very technical definition, but yeah, so that's not to say that we won't at some point add support for those, because it's been one of the most requested features now that more and more people are getting used to the meta avatars. We're just balancing a whole lot of stuff, and also we're pushing, even though you think, oh, hey, it's this low poly world, we are actually pushing the graphics extremely hard, mostly because you're seeing the entire course at once from many locations. So we're actually putting a lot of polygons through the GPU, and the meta avatars are just a little too heavy to maintain the frame rate in our environment. So again, I feel like this is sort of a temporary thing, and there will likely be a solution to that down the road, but we're not going to be doing the meta avatars right away, at least.
No, that makes
It
sense.
makes total sense. And I've always questioned like what capacity of power are these games really. I mean, in my head, they're pretty much pushing the limits of
when you look at the scenery,
without
absolutely.
compromising on
You can go into the giant, the top down view, and you can see the entire 18
ridiculous.
holes loaded in. So that's
Mhm.
that's a lot
That's
on the Quest.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is that if you look at a lot of games that have more sophisticated like materials or stuff like that, in general, they are all around. They're happening in smaller rooms where you're not seeing just as much physical space. But that was one thing that we've kind of really held on to, that sort of like for us mini golf, that ability to see the hole that you're coming up to, and that feeling that you're sort of exploring this sort of like maze path through a space. That's kind of a big part of it, and we really wanted to hold on to that, not make it just like, oh, here you're in a hole in this one little area and now you're in a totally different place. So that interconnectedness is a big part of our design.
Although to find the missing balls
I
that
was
are laying
just gonna
around,
bring it up.
I was like, that probably wouldn't be a bad idea if you knew that. Who do we blame for the was it a whole bunch of people that hid these balls over the court? People don't know there's a hidden ball on every single hole. You can find it somewhere on there, and I swear to God, there's allegedly one on every hole. But
There's some, man.
I went deep last night, and there was a handful. I just, for the life
People
of me,
were
couldn't
finding them
find
so
it.
fast. We have the later courses, especially the DLCs. We've started being a little meaner about where we are hiding them, just because people were just blasting through there. They'd get in a group and just sort of like 5 of them would just find everything within like 30 seconds. So
Yeah, that's what me and Trash do. But we do a team of 2. It's a little bit more fair than a team of 5. But before every hole,
one of us is scouting while the other one's getting ready.
Yeah. Then the other one hits. The other one starts to scout, and some of them are really hidden. Like you really got to look. And some of them, man, you feel so ashamed at yourself. It took you so long to find it.
in your face.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to give spoilers
a lot of the time.
I love it. I love it. And some of them are beautifully designed. So this might be a hard question for you to answer, because you've worked on everyone from base game, first course, all the way to all these DLCs.
I know you're.
But do you have a favorite course?
I think it varies. Whatever course we've just released, I'm always over by the time we actually release it. So right testing, now I've got we've just been testing. So I've probably played Sweetopia 30 times in the last month, basically. So at this point, I still love it, and I will fall back in love with it. We've just been, we've been stuck in quarantine together for a little too long, I think, me and Sweetopia. So I think Coyote's Valley was probably my favorite. It just sort of like, I love that. There's something I love about that really chill vibe that just like, I want to live here. And I think that's something that we get to do in particular in this game, that it capitalizes on that, because VR, there is an escapism aspect to it. And that feeling that like while you want to go someplace cool, you also just want to be, it's almost like going on vacation for an hour. So you kind of want to make it someplace that you really just enjoy spending time in.
No, and I'll tie that right into the multiplayer, because the one thing about VR that differs to me than like platform gaming or PC gaming multiplayer is, I look over and I see Dscruffles. He's right next to me when we're playing Walkabout. It's like, I can mess with him. Yeah, we can talk shit. We can play. It's the immersion feeling is definitely much more in depth for multiplayer with VR. I'm not a multiplayer guy outside of VR.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. Me neither. I wouldn't play a mini golf game on a PlayStation.
I've tried on computer, and it's not as fun.
And I love mini golf, but there's something about being actually there, holding the controller, swinging, looking like Travis said, looking at your friends. It
definitely is an escape, though, and I'm glad you had said that, because that's one of the things I look for is when I'm not thinking about things going on outside the headset. And I'm in it. We played last night, and I couldn't believe 18 holes was over. I'm like, dude, that was 18. I thought I messed up and hit like the front 9 or back 9. It's like, no, you have so much fun when you're playing. That time literally just goes flying by.
Yeah, this is probably the number one game for people to, you have long distance relatives or long distance friends.
It's a feel good. I mean, how can you not play this? But I love the liberties you guys are getting away with the holes, because the creativity, and in my head when we had first played it was like, there's only so many holes you can do, right? but some of the creativity coming out now is just
Yeah, and it doesn't sound like they
out of
have
this
any
world.
intention of slowing down.
No,
Yeah.
not if the
Well,
even
the interesting thing, and this also comes from, I mean, years of doing screenwriting and just design in general, sort of like, even though I haven't been doing as much game design, like it's similar-ish. And there's something about, you kind of need the first draft of a screenplay or whatever to kind of get the obvious stuff out. And once I think there's something in what you said there, that now that we have kind of done the obvious stuff, now we could sort of like, okay, there was this fun thing that happened. Like, what if we built a whole around that idea? And you start getting more abstract and more interesting, and just sort of like, in general, you're able to kind of do bigger, bolder, crazier stuff. And it doesn't, I feel like we can also sort of break away a little bit more from what like mini golf is, and start to introduce new mechanics and start to do some things that are more complex, just because the audience is already there. They've already kind of come with us, and now it's not going to be so weird that we start introducing the more crazy stuff.
No, that's freaking awesome.
I've got nothing bad to say about Walkabout Mini Golf though, because I mean, it was one of the first things I think I had bought in a handful of games I bought. I love mini golf in real life. It's one of those. It's a family game. You know, you bring your kids, you play mini golf. Everyone has fun. So to have any type of that experience, and we're blessed that, we're family, but we don't live too far away from each other. But shit, if we can't meet up every night and play in VR, and it feels like you're really with the person.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine like families who are legit playing it, thousands of miles away, and they're just able to actually get in there as a group. And
I have to say that's been one of the most rewarding things to hear, sort of like just how many people who sort of talked about how it helped them get through COVID, allowed them to reconnect with old friends. There's so many people who have been playing with their parents, and even specifically folks who got a headset specifically so they could play this game with either their kids or their friends, or just like, yeah, that social aspect and the connectivity is just, I had no, like, that was not sort of like the original, that was nothing that I ever thought would have taken off like it did. In retrospect, so like, oh yeah, obviously. So now we're trying to build more tools and more ways for people to sort of connect like that. And yeah, and just sort of keep that, build on that. But yeah, it's been such a surprise to see how many people have connected over it.
No, it's a good, it's a home run byproduct from that, if not done on purpose. But I mean,
I think that's a good reason why they were featured in that Super Bowl commercial, which congratulations on that too,
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and that was gave you the feels commercial in general anyways. And it's true. You can connect with people you haven't seen in years, and just have fun and play, and age doesn't matter, and
yeah,
it's awesome. Height doesn't matter.
Yeah. When I first got the Quest 2, I was like looking up all these must-own games, and I saw, 11 table tennis. I saw Walkabout Mini Golf, and I was like, some of the best games on the Quest are the mini golf and table tennis. I was like, let's see about this. But then you spend 10 minutes in them, and it makes total sense in a way that you can't explain to somebody unless they put on a headset.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, it's one of the most immersive experiences you're probably ever going to experience.
Yeah. It's there. A couple of people have started noticing that there's a bit of a parallel with like the Wii, and that the Wii had some really interesting stuff, but the things that most people play, like Wii Sports, it was like Wii Bowling was the one game that I played like on a daily basis, because one of my buddies who had an office next to mine, when we, like once or twice a day, we would just sort of like, okay, we need a 10-minute break, and we just go play around a Wii Bowling. And this is very different, but it does feel like it's scratching that similar itch, where it's sort of like, yeah, it's something, it's fun, it's easy to pick up, it doesn't require, you can pop on the headset, play around, and then come back out of it, and and you just feel kind of refreshed, like you just had a little mini vacation. So there's definitely a whole different audience for this stuff, and I feel like VR in general has been a lot of things that I wouldn't have thought would make as big of a deal as it was, because I got the first DK2 and started playing around with a couple of VR things on that. And then they came out with the the touch controllers, and it's sort of like, okay, that sounds cool, but that feels like it's a gimmick. Like, what are you really going to do with that until you get in and use it? It's like the hands are almost more than the headset in terms of like that ability to interact and that ability to just physically interact with the environment. And now I feel like the social is sort of the same thing, where people were sort of like, okay, who's going to really socialize in VR? And now once you see it, it's just sort of like, yeah, of course. How did we not see it?
What's the first thing everybody does when they go into VR the first time?
Look at their hands.
Oh,
Their,
yeah.
like, brain syncs up with VR. They like look at their hands. They like they press the buttons a couple of times, move their fingers. I haven't seen a single person not do that. That's the So the hands are big. The way things interact and move. That's the everybody starts grabbing slow, like they're tripping out. They're like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, what was your first VR experience?
I think the first one I played was The Climb.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, The Climb was a really, really good one. And actually, it was definitely like one of the inspirations for this one, because that also kind of had that simple sports activity, but the environment made it much bigger than, like, you could do a totally different version of that didn't have the aesthetic aspect of The Climb, and it would still be a fun game, but it wouldn't sort of like, it wouldn't be firing on all cylinders. So that was definitely an inspiration for this one. But yeah, I played Beat Saber. There was actually another game that we had developed that we never finished, and it kind of became the impetus, and it's in the same realm as Walkabout, but it's a totally different game. But we're actually hoping to get back and finish that one now that we've kind of got our feet under us. It's just one of those things that we just sort of drifted off in a different direction, and now it's time to come back to it. So.
Well, that's actually exciting. I was going to ask if there's any future projects in the horizon that, I always have a question I like to ask, and I know time is running out, and I'm not going to hold anybody hostage, but VR is an up and coming industry. To me, it's going to continue to grow mainstream. It'll hit. What's the best advice? I mean, you're somebody who went to school for music, and now are pumping out animation and are pumping out one of the best overall VR games on the market. So what's the best advice you have for people who have an interest in getting into the field of either game design or the game industry, but just don't know where they should begin? I think your story is actually really inspirational, because it's
non-college trained. It's actually a great story.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't trained in college, although I do think that there is something related, and there's a lot of folks who came up in animation with a music background, and there is some aspect of that, like, I don't know if it's developing taste or developing an eye, but a lot of it does come down to sort of like being able to articulate what it is that you like, and being able to point to it, sort of like, I like that. I like this abstract idea. How do I take that and do something totally different? But like I was just talking about with like The Climb, like Walkabout and The Climb are actually fairly, if you actually broke down the aspects of them, they're fairly similar, but it's a completely different game, a completely different experience. But being able to identify those things that you like, and being able to look at what other people are doing and add to it, and no idea is new. I mean, we're still mini golf. The sport already existed. We haven't like totally, reinvented anything. Although I do think there's an aspect that we're doing a lot of things now in VR that you couldn't, and we want to even push that further, because we're not limited by the real world. We every time we come up with a course, we're like, okay, what's our OSHA level on this? How, are we going to have railings, or are we just going to let people sort of like be staring over the edge of the abyss? There's some fun stuff with that we get to do. But yeah, for folks who are wanting to get into it, I would say go where you want to go and just do it. Whether it's film, music, games, all that sort of stuff, like there's never sort of someone waiting to sort of like offer you the thing. You just have to go do it. So like for me, making a short film, like I just sort of said, like, I'm just going to make a short film, and did that, and then did another one. And eventually you get to the point where you're able to start building up that stuff yourself. And same thing with all the feature work and the series work. It's sort of like it's taken the initiative to create something, and sometimes you do have to sort of get folks on board, but think of stuff that you can do either with the skills that you have, or with folks that you already know, because that's the best way to get it done. If you need someone to come along with, $30 million in order for you to make this idea, then it's a fun exercise, but it's really, really unrealistic until you get to that point that you're able to, that you can prove that, to investors or something like that, that you have those skills and that ability to execute this and pull it off. So, that's a one aspect of all that. I could talk all day about sort of like different ways of getting into the industry and what to focus on and all that sort of thing.
No, the common theme we hear is you got to get out there and you got to start. You got to start doing something, because all the thought thinking is never going to get anything done, and get the hands dirty and the feet wet. And
one thing I will say, because I know just sort of seeing a lot of folks who are doing game stuff and they're doing things that they have spent years and years on, sort of like, you always want to do something that you're passionate about. I am actually passionate about mini golf. I love it. I think it's fun, and especially now that we're getting to do the environment stuff. But there was also an element to that where sort of like, I want to do something, but I haven't seen the thing that I really, really desperately want to play. And I feel like a lot of folks fall into the trap of like, I love game X, and so I want to make my version of game X. It's like, that's cool. Use that as a jumping off point. But like, what's something new that you can bring to the table? What's a mechanic or a style or anything you can do that sort of elevates it and makes it unique and makes it yours?
In the same way, you say you're inspired by the climb, but there's no Walkabout's not a climbing game.
No,
it's inspired by it, but it's completely different.
Yeah, and there's a lot of inspiration coming from all over the place. So like Cutie Valley was very Miyazaki. In fact, I feel like that's almost sort of like one of the funnest things about this, is that we kind of get to take all those different things we love. Like, I love Miyazaki movies, and we kind of got to, let's just sort of like, what would that inspiration? And of course, by the time that all the rest of the team comes in and does things, it takes on a life of its own, but it still has some core DNA influence. But yeah, you could point to any level and be like, that sort of was inspired by, but it's still doing something different. That's kind of what we strive for.
No, that's awesome. So, Lucas, man, you're a busy guy.
I got a quick question before we let him go.
What's that?
Because he's a music major. Are you still playing music? I haven't really since the pandemic. I've also got I've got a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. So
congratulations.
Thanks. Even before the pandemic hit, I was pretty much, I just couldn't do anymore. Cause like, we had a gig that started at like 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. and went until 2 a.m. I just couldn't do that anymore. So
I'm retired.
Yep.
It was, I busted out, I'm a sax player, but so I busted out the sax and played it for the kids about a week ago, but I'm not really playing much. I just haven't had enough time, but I'm hoping to find, to squeeze out a few hours a week to get back to it.
Hey, maybe we could hear some in-game sax.
I was waiting. I'm like, sooner or later you'll see the saxophone show up, right?
I almost thought about laying down something for the Sweetopia Hard. Chris Raymond, the composer, was actually my old roommate in music school. Now he teaches at the University of Texas. But so he is so much better. But I keep like, I would love to just drop a little sax line into a couple of these just so I can get on there. But yeah, no, he's done 100% of that himself. And, I haven't polluted it with my bad sax playing.
Oh no! If one verse on a sax.
Yeah, when it happens, you got to let us know, and I'll definitely really pay attention to the music.
It'll just be Careless Whisper, just like blaring out of nowhere, completely. Yeah, for no reason. Just
good choice though.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. So I got 1,000 more things I could ask. Your favorite games. What's next for DLC courses? Different ideas. Mm-hmm. You're thinking of 1,000 different things. More technical questions about game design.
Yeah.
But that always is, good room for an episode too. So hopefully one day
we'll have to
be back.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. And for any of our listeners, if you haven't, tried Walkabout Mini Golf, man,
do it.
If you've ever played mini golf in real life, this one's a no-brainer. And definitely, check them out on social media. Their Discord, their Twitter, their Instagram. Very active.
Very good community.
if you hit some
Yeah.
good trick shots, be sure to share it to them too. I see you guys post those all the time, like I said
Oh
before.
yeah,
So
we love the trick shotters.
some of them are insane. I don't know how these people hit hole-in-ones, but, like every game, people take it to the next level. Like you said, you played
Yeah.
Sweetopia 30 times last month. There's going to be a couple of your fans like, I did that for fun. I played it 45 times the last 2 weeks, So
And they're way better at it than I am too. So
usually the way it goes. So
yeah.
thank you for taking your time and,
Awesome.
Thank you,
join us
sir.
today. And hopefully we can have you back in, Lucas.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and check us out Wednesday.
See you next week.
Podcasting remotely can be a challenge. And when we first began interviewing developers, we ran into every headache imaginable.
From connection issues to video lag to sound quality performance, we knew there had to be a better platform we could use.
That's where Zencastr came in, allowing us to easily connect with guests all over the world. Zencastr is simple to use with no download needed. With studio quality sound, HD video recording, automatic post-production, automatic transcripts, and a cloud backup, Zencastr is the perfect solution for any remote podcast.
If you'd like to have the same easy experience that we did for all your podcasting and content needs, then make sure to go check out zencastr.com/pricing and enter the promo code Ruff Talk VR, and you'll save 30% off your first 3 months.
That's zencastr.com/pricing, promo code Ruff Talk VR. Zencastr, making remote podcasting easy. Hey guys, Dscruffles here. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and rate us 5 stars on whatever podcast platform you listen to. And definitely don't forget to check out our official subreddit and join us there at r/RuffTalkVR. There you can join a community of other podcast fans, join us for some podcast meetup games, get first scoop on new episodes, interact with us a little bit directly, and more. As well, be sure to check out our official podcast supporter link, the Buy Me a Coffee link you can find right in our show notes, where you can donate to the podcast either one time, multiple times, become a monthly supporter. That way you can help us on our journey to make podcasting a full-time gig so we can continue to bring you more great podcasting content. As well, be sure to visit the Kiwi Design link in our show notes as well, where you can go and shop for different Oculus Quest 2 VR accessories, whether it's knuckle straps, lens protectors, face shields, whatever. Kiwi has you covered. So again, visit the Kiwi Design link in our show notes, help support the podcast, and pick yourself up some sweet Oculus Quest 2 gear.